All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This is a topic which I think everybody can relate to, and whether you're health conscious, whether you're not, whether you work from home or whether you work in an office, all of us love to snack. Now, as a parent, I can tell you now, my kids love to snack, and I can tell you that it doesn't change as you get older. I've invited a dietitian and a nutritionist to come onto the show to talk about this. Her name is Chloe Sachs, and it is something which, I came across her work. She's actually given me some advice personally, and I thought, you know what, I think it would be great to have a discussion on this podcast to talk about it. As you know, I'm very, you can say, passionate about health. I talk about health a lot. Lately, I've been very conscious of my own snacking. So I thought, you know what, let's do a topic on snacking, and let's unpack things that we should be talking about and thinking about when it comes to snacking. So Chloe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Michael. Very happy to speak today. And I think you're spot on there. Snacking is something that's very relevant to most of us. And in fact, 9 out of 10 Australians snack regularly, daily. So yeah, it's something we're doing often, whether it's pre or post workout or exercise, mid-morning, that 3 p.m. hit. I find with my clients, that's often when we want to snack, is that sort of 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. It might be when, we may be hungry, but we may also be sort of tired or wanting a break, and we're just reaching for something. After dinner, quite often people are sort of snacking, sometimes almost to wind down, or have a bit of a treat, I suppose, as well. So what research has shown in the last few years is that traditional meals are happening less often, and people want convenience. They've got busy lives, and sometimes snacking is almost taking over as providing more of our food intake, which, and I guess there's so much on offer these days as well. Might be showing my age a bit here, but when I was a child, you couldn't just go buy popcorn from a supermarket or whenever you wanted. Popcorn was only something you had at the movies, or, sushi wasn't available either as a potential snack, And back in the 50s and 60s, snacks were either a piece of fruit or a biscuit between meals. It was really much more limited. But these days, you can walk into supermarkets, convenience stores, petrol stations, and it's a huge range of snacks, a plethora, if you like, of all different kinds of snacks, mainly packaged snacks, I guess I would say is what we see. There is the rise of more health-conscious snacks, I suppose, and particularly snacks that provide protein. There's certainly a trend recently of high protein foods, and people being much more aware of getting my protein, where am I getting it from? So those snacks are featuring more as well.
Yes, and I was going to ask you, am I right in saying as well that it's not just me? Like it's a common thing, yeah. Like it's something which, like is it as common as I feel it is? Because to me it's massive. Like it's, so whether I'm working from home or the office, as I said, it's just that constant need to just snack all the time.
Absolutely. And again, in my practice, I find it's much more common with people working from home. So obviously at home, you've got your pantry there and your fridge. People often are doing their work, depending on their setup, but they might be quite near the kitchen, or they might be working in the kitchen or in the open plan living room. And so the kitchen's sort of there and they can see the fridge, and that almost triggers or prompts us to, I'll get up and have something to eat. I only have to walk a couple of meters and there I am at the fridge. So we do snack more, I think, when we work from home. And as I said, snacking is not always because we're hungry necessarily. It can be for many reasons, like we feel like a break, we're tired, we're sick of looking at the computer screen. Sometimes it's even if we're a little bit dehydrated, we'll sort of go look for something to eat, because dehydration makes us feel a little bit tired, a little bit low, and so we want a snack to kind of give us a little bit of pep. So yeah, snacking is really common. there's workplaces nowadays also that are providing fruit baskets. I spoke to a client this morning and he was saying there's chocolate regularly provided at his workplace, there's biscuits. Some places like tech companies, should I say, they provide chips, bars, ready-made meals, nuts, like all sorts of snacks, because often people are working long hours and I guess they just want to fuel them and keep them going. So yeah, it is really common for sure. And I guess a lot of the snacking sort of choices out there are often packaged snacks. So I guess processed or ultra processed snacks, which can be healthy to a sort of a varying degree, I suppose. I was just looking now, and the healthy snack category includes foods such as pretzels, rice crackers, soy snacks, breakfast bars or fruit bars. And I wouldn't necessarily say, even though those are called healthy snacks, I wouldn't necessarily say that all of those are healthy as such. They may be better than sort of chocolates and sweets and things, but I think there's a lot in the marketing out there, and we're often convinced that certain snacks are healthy when actually they're not always that good for us. Packaged snacks generally have salt and or sugar added to preserve them and for the flavour, and a lot of other ingredients, colours, flavours, additives, which are not always sort of so healthy for us. The packaged snacks also don't tend to provide a lot of nutritional benefit in general. So, fibre, protein, vitamins, and nutrients are not always present in those sort of packaged snacks. So we do have to be a bit wary of them, I suppose. Ultra processed snacks would be snacks like protein bars or some muesli bars where they might have a base of protein bars, might have a protein powder in them, muesli bars might have nuts or oats, but there's a lot of other ingredients added, like emulsifiers, humectants, colours and flavours. They might add fibre in to give the bar extra fibre. Often an ultra-processed food will have a long list of ingredients that you would never find in your own pantry or fridge at home. So if you're looking at an ingredient label on the back of a packet and there's a lot of ingredients that you don't really know what they are, you haven't heard of them, or they're not available in your pantry at home, that would be an ultra processed snack, and they not always so healthy for us because there are a lot of additives in there. I would say the best snacks would be the ones that are more whole food snacks, I suppose. So whole foods are foods where you can, your grandmother might recognize it as food if you like. So foods that have sort of a basis of fruits or vegetables, dairy or protein, or like whole grains such as oats. They're the sort of the best snacks, the ones that are least processed, will contain some sort of fresh food ideally as well. They're the snacks that are going to give us, more often will give us some protein, they'll give us some whole grains with fibre, they'll provide some vitamins, some minerals, some antioxidants. They're certainly the better snacks for us. So yeah, and I guess another thing I would suggest also is snack if you're hungry between meals. Like ideally, we want to aim to have 3 meals a day, because meals are usually more balanced in their nutrition than snacks. They're giving us more, as I said before, like protein and fibre and calcium and iron and vitamin B and vitamin C and all those nutrients we need every day to feel at our best. So if you're having 3 balanced meals a day, ideally, the snacks should be optional, and balanced meals that have enough protein and enough fibre should keep us feeling full. But snacks are an optional extra. If you're feeling really hungry between lunch or dinner, maybe if you've had a big workout, or you've been really active that day and you're feeling more hungry, absolutely have a snack. But snacks are almost like a little bridge to get us through to the next meal. They ideally shouldn't replace meals. I sometimes have clients say to me, I snacked in the afternoon and I've had quite a few snacks and now I'm really hungry for dinner. And the situation you can get in then is you're not having dinner, so generally you're probably not getting your protein requirement for that day, because dinner will usually provide us with a decent amount of our protein. And then people tend to get hungry later, just before they go to bed or later in the evening, so then they snack a bit more. So they've sort of snacked in the afternoon, they've snacked later in the evening, and they've missed a sort of a good balanced meal. So I guess as I described earlier, that trend where people are not having meals so much, but having more snacks. I think we just have to be a little bit careful of that, because we can be missing out on vital nutrients. A lot of snacks, especially the packaged snacks, even the healthy ones I mentioned before, super healthy, like pretzels and the rice crackers and the soy snacks, they're often very carb rich. So they've got a lot of carbohydrates, but not a lot of protein. And protein is really important. Obviously, keeps us feeling full. It's important for our maintain our muscle. It's important, obviously, for our hair, our skin, our nails, all those things. So, yeah, we just got to be careful of those packaged snacks, which can be very carby. When you eat carbohydrate-rich snacks, such as those ones I described, like the pretzels and the rice crackers, and sometimes the muesli bars and chips and things like that, because they don't have much protein or fiber in them, they don't keep us full for long. So you may have a handful of pretzels, and an hour later, you might be hungry again, and so you're having the rice crackers, and then an hour after that, you think, I still need something. I'm not feeling quite satisfied or full. So that's the danger of sort of the very carb-rich snacks, is that they don't often sort of keep us feeling that full. They're not always that sort of satisfying as well.
And also the other thing I'm just thinking is, like, when it comes to snacking, am I right in saying that? And I know it really depends on so many different things, but I've spoken to some people that will tell me that they like to snack during the day instead of just having big meals. What are your thoughts on that? So again, assuming that the snacks are just as healthy as the big meal, so just taking that like that variance out of the scenarios, and so assuming they're just as healthy as each other, assuming the portions are the same,
Yes.
is someone better off just having 2-3 meals a day, for example, or spreading it out over like 8 different meals?
I mean, I guess they could, if we're saying that the snacks are as healthy as the meals and balanced and everything. Yeah, if someone's lifestyle, maybe their working life or the way they operate, it just suits them better to have smaller, more frequent meals. Yeah, look, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I guess as long as they know that they are sort of being quite balanced and sort of covering all the food groups. I guess I sometimes think I wonder if that's more time consuming for people. If they're thinking, okay, I've got to have 6 small meals a day rather than sort of 2 or 3 bigger ones, that it becomes sort of time consuming, and they've got to be preparing sort of more of those smaller meals. Yeah, that would be my only sort of, I guess, concern. But if it suits someone, and they find their energy levels are better if they eat that way, maybe it fits around, as I said, lifestyle or workouts. I guess an athlete, particularly someone sort of doing a few training sessions a day, perhaps it may really suit them. Or maybe even a student that has sort of commitments before and after school, perhaps someone who's really busy. Yeah, it may well suit them to sort of eat like that. Particularly or someone who doesn't like, heavy meals. Yeah, it could certainly sort of suit their lifestyle. Yeah, that would be okay. That would be okay.
These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au. And also, what would someone, like, for example, how would someone identify if they are snacking too much or really just eating too much, in general? Like, it's because, I mean, sometimes it's like anything. Sometimes we'll have habits, but we just don't pick up on them. And some of us are lucky enough to have honest people around us, like friends and family, that tell us something. Hey, you've gained a few kilos lately, or even not fitting in clothes, or even your doctor saying something to you, whether it's, if it's related to another part of your health, especially. But what would you say is like some common signs someone should watch out for, or things or habits they should watch out for, to, that could sort of make them think, okay, hold on a second, maybe I do have a snacking problem, or maybe, or even just the type of food that I'm eating?
Yes, sure. So I suppose if you're gaining weight, and I would have to say it's one of the most common reasons I see weight gain in clients, because I obviously do a lot of weight loss. It's the snacking. Even when it can be sort of quite healthy snacking, just more calories than what we're burning, it will add up over time. And I think some people do think, oh, but I'm having yogurt and fruit, and I'm having nuts, and I'm having these healthy muesli bars that I know are healthy, and I'll sort of say, well, yeah, they are. Those are all healthy choices, but it's just giving you more calories than what you actually need. And given that, I guess the vast majority of us are in desk jobs these days, or we're sitting in front of a computer, we're not burning a lot of energy. We might be doing a walk in the morning, or we might be doing a gym workout, or which is great, but we're still sitting, say, for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. We sit at our desks, we sit in traffic, we sit at our meals. We do a lot of sitting, so we can be eating more than what we're burning from a calorie sort of perspective. And certainly we're more sedentary, these days than we were, 10, 20, 30 years ago as well. A sign that you're snacking too much can also be that if you get to lunch or dinner time, and this is often a question I ask people, get to lunch or dinner, are you hungry? Is the tummy got a bit of a rumble? Is stomach making noises? Do you feel really empty? Sometimes a bit lightheaded, a little shaky, all those sort of signs that, you need to be refueled. If you get to lunch and dinner and you really sort of don't have much appetite, you feel very neutral about it, you're like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. Oh, well, I better eat then, and you go and have your lunch, but the appetite isn't there. To me, that's often a sign that you're eating a snack in that 1 or 2 hours before the meal that you probably didn't perhaps need. Or, if you've had 2 or 3 snacks, maybe you should have had one rather than sort of the 2 or 3. So that can be sort of a good indicator. And I guess if your weight's sort of slowly creeping up and everything else has remained the same. So yes, if you change jobs and you're at a workplace where, there are biscuits and fruits and chocolates on offer regularly, maybe they have morning teas, or maybe you've started a job where you work from home much more than you used to, and so you are snacking more. And if you can sort of detect those changes in your eating patterns or your behaviours, it can be a sign that you may need to sort of look at your snacking. I guess also there's that emotional or emotional snacking or comfort eating that we've probably all done at some point in some sort of way, but for some people it becomes more of an activity they do more often, and they eat if they're stressed, if they're upset, if they have had a bad day at work or a long day. So I suppose just being aware of that sometimes as well. And knowing when you may be sort of snacking a little bit too often. I guess the other aspect of snacking and how it impacts on our health is eating. We weren't really designed to eat constantly, so having a break between meals is actually good for us, letting the gut and the bowel sort of, I suppose, empty a little bit. We know for the gut bacteria also, it's not good to be eating all the time. Like giving the digestive system a break is beneficial, and not sort of eating constantly. Also for our dental health, eating often is also, you're going to build up sort of more plaque, more sugars in the mouth, and we know that's for dental health that's not ideal either. So like just having that break between eating is beneficial also for those reasons.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point that you bring up because say, our, say, I don't want to say our ancestors, but say 500 years ago, for example, you didn't have a fridge, so there wasn't the ability to just grab food anytime you wanted to, or food wasn't readily available. So our bodies, I find that really interesting that our bodies aren't designed to always be eating, and that it's good to have that break in between.
Yes, definitely. And it's good for us to, feel a little bit hungry occasionally, especially, as I said, coming up to meals. I think, when we're going from being hungry, or being sort of empty, to being full, we know when to stop. I think if we're getting to meal times and we're not that hungry, but we're eating regardless, sometimes it can be hard. You're not feeling that difference between being empty or hungry and being full, so it can be hard to know when to stop. So, certainly snacking has a place, but we need to assess, how often, how much we need to be snacking as well. I often do sort of see clients too that snack after dinner, and I think that's almost unwinding. Like, we're tired at the end of the day. We're sort of eating to unwind, to treat ourselves. Maybe it's, after we've put the kids in bed, we're thinking, oh, thank goodness, that day's done. And we sit down, and we may often sit down in front of a screen as well. And this is also a little bit, can be a bit tricky, because when we're sitting in front of we're scrolling on a phone, or we're looking at a television, or looking at our laptop, maybe watching something on our iPad, we are much more likely to snack. They would say mindlessly is how you might put it. So almost like robotically, we'll keep eating. So if we've got the bag of popcorn with us, or the big bunch of bowl of grapes, or a bowl of chips, we'll almost keep eating it without really thinking about it, because we're very distracted by what we're watching. And often, in a way, we're not even really enjoying the food that much, because we're just eating it because it's there. And then we'll look down and go, oh goodness, did I finish that? Did I eat that? I don't even kind of remember it. And they did an interesting study in America where they put people in a cinema and they gave them those really, really big American, well, I wouldn't even say, it's a box of popcorn, really, really, really large. But the popcorn was a week old. So the popcorn was stale. It wasn't crunchy. It wasn't that nice. And people ate it. They finished these big boxes of popcorn because they were in a, obviously a darkened sort of movie cinema, but they were distracted by the show. And so they just kept eating. So I think being careful how we snack, that we, try not to sort of snack or eat in front of screens, try not to snack on the run, I suppose. So, walking down the street or when we're busy. And I usually advise people, I wouldn't necessarily suggest having snacks in the car is a good thing either, because if they're in the glove box or if you're in that center console, you get in the car, you're going to snack. Like if it's there, you're going to end up eating it at some point. And it can almost trigger or encourage us to snack more than we otherwise sort of would have. If you got in the car and the food wasn't there, you might not even think about it, but because it's there, you'll sort of snack on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And also, for me, something that you've said before that really has resonated with me as well is that sometimes just having a whole bunch of snacks can end up being a meal. So in a way, if you know what I mean, it's like you're grabbing even like a handful of nuts, for example, and having another handful, then another handful. It's like you've just literally had a second meal,
Yes.
without realizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And mentally, you're telling yourself, "Oh, I just had a snack. It's okay." Like you sort of feel guilt free,
yes.
but you shouldn't. You should feel guilty in a way. I don't want to judge anyone, obviously, but that's just me. I'll eat something and then I'll eat another. It's like lollies. You'll sort of have like just one, then another, then another, and another, and suddenly you've just had like your whole daily sugar intake within like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Certain snacks are very moreish. I think that's the thing. So yeah, like lollies. Look, we can all eat a lot of them, can't we? They're very they're delicious and like they're little, so we think, oh, just have a few more. So, and nuts are sort of similar. They're lovely, they're moreish. It's hard to push and control. Like something like an apple, or a slice of toast with peanut butter, or a muesli bar. You sort of know how much you've had, but little snacks, or snacks where there's lots of pieces like chips or nuts or lollies, yeah, can be quite tricky, because you sort of just keep going and like, oh, I don't know how many I've had. So yeah, we can be eating sort of quite a few of those, that's for sure.
Yeah. And Chloe, just if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business as well, and just what you do. Just because I'm sure after a few people listening to this, they're going to be like, okay, I need to talk to someone like Chloe, because I believe you can help people anywhere in Australia. Like it could be remote, and there's different types of things you do.
Absolutely. So I'm a dietitian and nutritionist, and I help people with a range of conditions. I guess predominantly would be weight loss, digestive concerns, so any digestive diseases, certainly cholesterol, fussy eating in kids. These days, more with the sort of the interest in perimenopause and menopause. I'm doing a lot more of work with women in that stage of their lives. Diabetes. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a generalist. I do all those things, and yeah, it's great. I love helping people. There's nothing more satisfying than watching people reach their health goals and improve their health. Yeah, absolutely. I speak to people in WA, Tassie, all over the country, some overseas as well. And yeah, I could do like a phone call consult, obviously, or a video meeting as well, if people prefer that. So yeah, if you've got any sort of questions or concerns, maybe it's for yourself, maybe it's for family members, yeah, look, please reach out. I think Michael's going to put my website up. Please reach out, and yeah, be happy to help. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, I'm assuming the website's probably the best way to do it.
Yes, yeah, my email
Yeah,
address is on there, my phone number. So yeah,
amazing.
phone call, email, whatever's easiest. And I do try to get back to people within the day. So yeah, please just reach out and yeah, I'd love to help you.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things like that you could never really know enough. And it helps that, again, I'm a financial advisor, so for me, I help people with their money, but a lot of my clients are very well educated with money. Like they really know their stuff, but they still need that person to look at things from the outside to give them that guidance and support. And I think it's very similar with you. Like somebody could think they're the healthiest person out there, but until they speak to somebody like you and they have someone look at their situation and be like, you know what, like you're doing everything pretty well, but you should probably be focusing on this or probably watching out for this. I think until that happens, they normally won't realize what they can be doing better with or
Yes,
improving on.
yeah, absolutely. And look, we eat 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. There's always things we can do to improve our health, I think. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes having someone come in and fresh pair of eyes can be really, really helpful. And then I've had lots of clients say, even just them reflecting on it and sort of hearing what I've got to say and then reflecting on it themselves, they find really helpful. And every time we speak, they're making a few more changes. And then, it's great when I might see them a year or two later and they've come back to me and we're just doing another refresh and their cholesterol's better, their blood sugars are improved, they're feeling good. It's just wonderful to see how over time you can really create sort of a better, healthier version of yourself. And just, to have that energy to be able to do everything we need to do in life and that, they feel great, their sleep's improved. It's fantastic. So yeah, I agree. I think we may not always reflect on our health so often. We may not want to talk to our friends about it or even our partner and things, but having someone who's sort of quite neutral, I think it's helpful because we can improve things so much. So yeah, it's great to see people reap the benefits for sure.
Yeah, no, nice. And Chloe, I like to finish off all my episodes off. So I'll say that sentence again. I like to finish all my episodes off with a dad joke.
Oh, yeah.
And I found one about food. So I thought this was perfect dad joke to drop. Um,
Yeah.
what do you get from a pampered cow?
What do you get from a pampered cow?
Yes, spoilt milk.
Yes, of course. I'm never good at those. I can never guess them. It's a good one.
I know. And then when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
of
could,
course.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
it. But no, but again, Chloe, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining. And I really, really appreciate the tips you've given. And I think most people listening to this are going to think of your words, your wise words next time they're reaching for a snack in their pantry.
Great.
Yeah,
It was an
no.
absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.